So, two buildings, very famous, very beautiful, very innovative. One is a disastrous project, the other is a rare triumph. What's the difference? It comes down to one word: planning. What did Joe Cahill do? He had the barest outlines of a plan when he said, start construction, let's get going. And that's what they did. They started digging. Well, when you engage in quick and superficial planning like that, what do? You miss problems, little problems like engineers telling you, we don't know how to build the building. Those problems don't go away. You start delivery, eventually the problems will surface. And there won't be just one problem, there will be multiple problems, and the problems will start to collide like cars on a foggy highway. And as a result, a project that starts at a gallop will slow down and become a long, painful slog. And that's when your schedule goes up in flames, that's when your budget explodes. This pattern we call think fast, act slow. Now, the Sydney Opera House is admittedly a very extreme example. Fortunately, it's fairly rare to be that bad. But it is actually typical of the pattern we see in failed projects. Think fast, quick and superficial planning. Let's get going. Let's start on delivery. We start on delivery. Problems surface, problems that you didn't identify in planning, problems that you didn't solve in planning, and then everything starts to slow down and everything starts to turn into a disaster. That's the pattern. What happened with the Guggenheim Bilbao? Frank Gehry did the opposite. He thought slowly, carefully. He planned carefully. And he produced a rigorous, tested, reliable plan which allowed the delivery to be quick and smooth. So think slow, act fast. That's the solution to delivering big projects. Now, have I completely blown your minds with this amazing, surprising, deeply counterintuitive advice? Are you astonished? No, you are not. In English, we have this saying, measure twice, cut once. My grandfather taught me this, right? This is an old bit of folk wisdom. We have many more sayings like this. I'm willing to bet a large amount of money that in Norwegian, there are all sorts of sayings that are exactly like this. Why am I so confident? Because, well, I can tell you a couple weeks ago, I was in Abu Dhabi and I said, in Arabic, do you have a saying like this? Oh yeah, lots of them. In Korea, in Colombia, in Iceland, in any language you care to name, you will find the same folk wisdom. We all know this. Everybody in the world knows plan carefully, slowly, carefully, and that will make your delivery fast. We all know that this is what we should do. But that leads to a real puzzle, doesn't it? If we all know that that's what we should do, why is it that big projects routinely do the opposite? That's the real puzzle that we have to crack if we're going to solve this problem and deliver big projects on time, on budget, and on benefit. So, in our book, we argue there are the three main factors at work. Politics. In every big project, there's money, there's status, there's power, everybody wants something. And I just showed you an example of politics at work in big projects. Joe Cahill ordered construction to begin when he had virtually no plan in hand. Why? Was Joe Cahill an idiot? No. In fact, Joe Cahill was a very clever politician. Joe Cahill understood that he would not be in office throughout the entire life of the project. He could not protect the project and ensure that it would be completed so that his legacy would be delivered. So Joe Cahill engaged in a classic political strategy. He spent as much money as possible, as fast as possible, because if you pour enough money into the project, then your successor won't be able to pull the plug on your project. Right? And there's all sorts of other ways in which politics encourages quick and superficial planning. Second factor, culture. Who are executives? Executives execute. They're doers. They get stuff done. And they have that real mindset, which is often a very good thing. But if you see yourself as a doer, well, what's planning? Planning isn't doing. Planning is bureaucratic paperwork. Who cares about that? Let's move on with it. Let's go. Let's get going. As a result, in organizations, there is routinely a bias against planning. in favor of just getting on with it. And finally, this one, psychology. This is really fundamental. If you open any psychology textbook, or if you open Daniel Kahneman's book, Thinking Fast and Slow, you will see all sorts of heuristics and biases that are relevant to big projects. And every single one of those heuristics and biases leans in the same direction. It leans in favor of overconfidence, in favor of we know enough, in favor of we've got it all figured out, let's get on with it. So, what have you got here? Politics, culture, psychology are all pushing people in the same direction. They're pushing people away from think slow, act fast towards think fast, act slow. So what do we do about it? You have to understand the politics of your project. You have to understand the culture. You have to understand the psychology. You have to understand them deeply. Then you can craft a strategy which is designed to deliberately push back against those tectonic forces so that you can get to think slow, act fast, so that you can deliver one of the rare triumphs like the Guggenheim Bilbao. Thanks very much.